I keep reading about Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan celebrating the R word, the R word and what other word? Being able to use the R word. I don't know. Again, I try not to listen to state propaganda podcasts, but Joe Rogan making headlines saying one of the great cultural victories is being able to say the R word. It's like, bro, you can say that. You understand that. You say, yo, there are people saying some much, much, much more heinous words. There are people saying DEI instead of the N word. There are people, remember when people were saying, let's go Brandon, instead of just saying F Joe Biden? And I would say the word, but we're within a minute of a live on YouTube. So YouTube made a rule. You can't swear in the beginning, but if you swear, I guess in the middle, it's fine. I don't know. They're very vague on their community guidelines. I hate that. Just like AI out the rules, YouTube. Just AI out the rules. But Joe Rogan, these people are fucking unhinged. Joe Rogan celebrating for our culture, you can use the R word again. And it's like, that's a sign of a fucking puss. That's a sign of Puss in Boots. Joe, you're Puss in Boots. I know you're tough as nails when it comes to fighting. I know you're a trained fighter down in Texas. It's always funny to me the people who leave their hometown, not to like get bigger or anything, but most likely because they're not welcome anymore. But Joe Rogan celebrating that a cultural victory is being able to use the R word is the most nonsensical, dumb, nothing to celebrate. It's like, bro, you can use that whenever you want. I used it on my live stream yesterday, and right after I said sorry. It's like, you can use almost any word you want. I guess you can't say fuck Tesla, or you can't, graffiti on Tesla. That's apparently not allowed anymore. That's domestic terrorism. But Joe, you can use the R word. You always could. This is so I can't believe people take Joe Rogan as like a serious, like, people voted for the price of egg. Do you think the average person right now is like, God, rent's going up, my electric bills through the roof, groceries, one bag of groceries is $100, but at least I can now say the R word. Like, you could say it before. You could always say it. Or wait, maybe Joe Rogan will get Donald Trump, maybe Joe Rogan will get Donald to sign a presidential memo. Maybe, I hope that happens. I hope we get there, because there will be people that celebrate it. Joe, you should have your buddy Elon on again and have him and Doge have Donald sign a presidential memo that says a cultural victory for middle-aged white men everywhere. You can say the R word again. Like, did Joe Rogan think that, like, there were places in America, if you said that, you got arrested? You could say that and still have an audience. You could say that and have people hate you. You could say that. I mean, we got a dude that's Sig Heiling at the inauguration, and Joe Rogan thinks it's a victory to say the R word. Good morning, Em. What's up? Love you. Good to see you. Alyssa, what's up? Silas, Super Siren X. Hello. I'm sorry I didn't see it. My phone's a little glary. I can't see you guys. Or it's hard for me to see the chat. Em, how are you doing? So good to see you. Love you. Em, I was taking my son to school today, and About a Girl came on. Of course, if you're listening to any music on my phone, Nirvana is probably going to be 1 in 4 songs. It goes Nirvana, Atmosphere, Tupac, maybe some Petty or some Clash or some Bob Marley. But Nirvana is going to come into the rotation. I'll say hi to your mom. What's up, your mom? I hope she's doing well. And as soon as About a Girl came on, my son was like, change it. I think Nirvana is like, you have to hit your teens to start to appreciate Nirvana. I really do. Because I get it. It could be abrasive when you're younger. But my kids know that I love it. He didn't diss it, Alyssa, but he definitely, like, About a Girl came on in the first few chords. He was like, change it. And I was like, all right. And then the next song was Nirvana, and I was like, I'm sorry. He's like, just shut it off. Now Now I know how my mom feels when like Neil Young and Rod Stewart would keep playing when she would drive me somewhere. I'd be like, just shut the radio off, Jesus. Oh, that TFS guy. Let's say, I can't read that word. Highway to hell. Well, that's what America's on right now. So real quick, let's break through the news. The news is Marco Rubio's bodyguard arrested in Brussels, Belgium, because they wouldn't open the bar for him. The moral of America today is crime is legal and everyone in power is totally unhinged. They're totally entitled brats. Like, these are not people you would want to have over for dinner. Let's put it like that. And that's a good gauge for people. You know, think about that. A dinner guest is a good way to gauge somebody's character. Not all the time. There's slick folks. But I mean, you wouldn't want Marco Rubio in your house, you know. He probably smells like old cat food. But imagine that dude just is gross. Marco Rubio looks like when he opens his mouth, flies come out. So Marco Rubio's bodyguard, they were pissed that a hotel bar, I think it was the hotel bar in Brussels, wouldn't open for the god man Marco Rubio, and his bodyguard got in a fight over it and got arrested. Way to represent us on the national stage. You know, that's just, I don't know. If you got a bodyguard getting in a fight because the bar won't open, maybe you shouldn't be a bodyguard. Maybe you don't have the temperament to be a bodyguard. Kathy Capucci, what's up? Oh, I'd have them over for dinner. They'd be scrubbing every pot and pan. Oh, yeah. Listen, Kathy, I like your sentiment, but if anything, you know, those people wouldn't. I was gonna say, give them all chili. Give them all chili and send them home quickly. Hopefully for a long drive. What's up, Logan? Good to see you again. I look like a bartender. I bartended a long time ago. So yeah, Rubio's bodyguard. Donald Trump. Donald. I don't know if you guys know this, but the CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, they protect consumers' finances. Fancy language, it just means they are the government service that doesn't let corporations take advantage of people who spend money in the economy. That's you and I. Biden had set to put a $5 limit on overdraft fees for banks and fees for banks in general, is $5. Because right now, if you're a bank, if you overdraft, like for me, it's a $35 fee. So if I don't have enough money, and they, you know, did a study, they said most of the people who overdraft usually have $200 to $400 in their account. And I'm like, God damn, those people are rich. Usually I have $2 to $4 in my account. But if you overdraft, once that bank goes negative, you get hit with a $35 fee. So you just have less money than you had before having no money. And Biden, again, I'm not a Biden fan, I'm not a Kamala fan, I'm definitely not a Trump fan. But one good thing Biden was set to do was he was putting a limit on what banks can charge you. Banks make billions of dollars on these overdraft fees, right? So Biden had said, banks, you can only hit people with a $5 fee. That's it. He said, if people are already broke and they're overdrafting, you can't hit them with a $25, $35 fee. And Donald and all the Republicans are removing that. They're overturning the limit. So now banks can still charge you. The rule didn't go into effect, but now it never will, because Donald and all his bank buddies and all his wealthy corporate elitists they like to make money on you being poor. That's what an overdraft fee is. They say you don't have enough money, well, you get charged for that. That's why it's more expensive to be poor. And Donald and all his Republican buddies are removing that Biden rule. They're not going to let it go into effect. So now banks will be able to charge you whatever they want, fees on everything, and they'll just make money, passive money, not doing anything. They're basically, a overdraft fee is just making money on you being poor. It's big business to exploit poor people. And if you thought Donald Trump gave a F about you, this tells you right now, Donald doesn't get overdraft fees. Those Republicans, those Democrats, they don't get overdraft fees. In fact, with what just happened with the insider trading, that they all pulled off. The huge crypto rug pull pump and dump scheme that Donald did with the economy and everyone's retirement. They'll never have. I mean, if Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a horse-legged bimbo, if she's worth 21 million, they're never getting an overdraft fee. That applies to everybody that voted. Everyone. Red, blue, does not fucking matter. Overdraft fees apply to us. All the working people. And Trump, Mr. Donald, and his cohorts, the Democrats and Republicans. Democrats are accomplices at this point, folks. They are complicit, okay? They are all. Like, I keep thinking, at this point, we got to do citizens arrests. You know, at this point, we got to be the ones to uphold the law. We got to go arrest these people. Timothy Travis, we're in this mess because billionaires not wanting to pay their taxes. 100%. This all boils down to them wanting to avoid taxes. They don't want to be taxed more, so they're willing to lose trillions of dollars with Donald not knowing what he's doing in the stock market, with the economy, and with tariffs, and putting a 10% tariff on everything. So everything just got more expensive by 10%. All because these billionaires just don't want to be taxed more. They don't want to pay into the government because the government is a service for people. Just like I said, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that thing Joe Rogan and Mark Zuckerberg didn't know what it was, even though they both intimately know what that is, because that's the government agency that protects us from Zuck and Joe and all his buddies, Joe Rogan and all his corporate CEO billionaire friends, from exploiting poor people. They're the ones that put in the limits for overdraft fees or claw that money back. They're the ones that do all that stuff. They don't let these banks and corporate elites take advantage, or they try to implore some kind of law and boundary. They're the law for them. Oh, it makes me so mad. Joe Rogan's such a fucking moron. He's a harm to the economy. He's a harm to working people. Do you give out moderator for free, or got to be a long-time member? The people who I've allowed to be moderators, who I've given that privilege, because it is one, are people who are, you know, family of the channel. They're here all the time. I see them all the time, or I've seen them a lot. I've been doing this for over a year now, live every weekday. Hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. And if you're up here in the chat, or, you know, you don't have to be chatting, but if you just let me know you're here, I suppose you could scam it too. You could just drop in, say hi, and then peace out. But that's who's moderators. Because we do need mods. When you're, like Timothy, who probably knows, when you're saying billionaires should pay their fair share of taxes, you know, I think even Republicans the other day were talking about how it was such a great age, the 40s and 50s, the 50s of America. Everybody likes to talk about how capitalism lifted people out of poverty, and look at the 50s, our most prosperous time. But they always neglect to mention that the wealthiest people in the 40s and 50s were paying a 78 to 94% tax rate. That's right. Corporations were paying almost 90% taxes. And look what happened. Our society got great. There were pensions, retirements. People could afford to buy homes and live and raise a family. And now billionaires, even though they have all the money, it's so funny to me. People are like, "That immigrants taking my job." I'm like, no, immigrants aren't doing layoff seasons. That's the CEOs. The CEOs are making 2,000 times what you make as a median worker. The CEO, Elon Musk, is hoarding billions of dollars, not the guy trying to fucking buy eggs and pay rent, okay? We need to turn these people and direct their anger in the correct way. So Timothy Travis knows that we got to tax wealth, not work. And Donald Trump's about to implement another tax break for billionaires and anyone making less than $350,000. Guess what? Your taxes are going to be fucked. They're going to go up. I mean, people that still support Trump, even though they see he's supporting big banks, Donald and his Republicans are overturning Biden's limit on bank overdraft fees. One good thing Biden did, and I'm not for Democrats or Republicans, I like Bernie. I like the ones that will say healthcare is a human right. Homes are a right for Americans. I like that. But I do not like Donald and his Republicans, who are allowing banks to continue to charge whatever they want, exploiting the poor, making money off people not having money. Donald Trump and the Republicans are overturning Biden's limit on bank fees. That is evil. Banks don't need more money. They make billions in overdraft fees. Biden wanted to cap it at $5, and Donald and all his criminal friends, his cronies, this regime said, no, we're going to overturn that. We're going to allow banks to charge you whatever they want. Horrible. So, with all that being said, me referencing what Timothy was talking about, you get a lot of trolls. It's amazing to me the amount of people who work really hard, who want to buy a home or bought a home, will defend Donald and all his cronies, all his bootlickers, all the people who won't criticize him. They'll say, he's the greatest, he's the best, he's the smartest. Those people will defend him, even when he's like, I'm going to let banks charge you fucking whatever they want. I'm going to let banks do whatever they want with overdraft fees. Like, how do you defend that? And my thing is like, if you're somebody who did buy a home, I know a lot of people who got to like live with their parents until they were ready to buy a home. How do you not feel any amount of compassion for people who their parents died, like mine, when they were young, or had a different struggle in life and, you know, don't want rent to be this high and they would like to own a home? Like, how can you claim to love America but hate the people in it? I don't get it. Texas best. W Grupp. Hi, how are you, W Grupp? Or Regroup? Whoop. Good to see you. Sorry, there's a glare on my screen, so. Oh my Jesus. Does your name say Idiot? I think it says Idiot because, bud, when you go either Donald or Kamala, would you rather a lady? Are you just saying like you're misogynist? Are you literally just saying like, I don't want a lady in charge? How do you fucking talk to your mom? I feel bad for your mom. Because if like that's your argument, you would rather that lady? Like, or are you saying like that lady because she was the top cop and she's also an elite like Donald Trump? Like, I think at least Kamala wouldn't have done a pump and dump with people's retirements and the stock market. She would have had a little more compassion. She wouldn't have gutted, you know, veterans benefits and the VA and tried to remove DEI from everything. So yeah, at this point, yeah, she wouldn't have had, listen, things that really, really fucking bug me are Elon Musk, sig hailing, pretending he's smart, Joe Rogan being state media now and just lying to people. Like Joe Rogan, okay? Joe Rogan is celebrating, he's saying it's a cultural victory for people that we can now say the R word. And I'm like, guys, come here, listen close. I gotta tell you this. He's a fucking moron. Joe Rogan thinks you couldn't say the R word. He thinks it's a cultural victory that now we can. Joe Rogan is $100 million man. He lives in a bubble. He has no concept of what people are suffering right now. He doesn't worry about medical debt, rent, none of that. He's celebrating we can say the R word when it was never illegal. You could say it. Joe, I hate to break this to you, but real comedians aren't scared to say it. They'll complain about it, but they'll just say it. If it's appropriate to use at the time, say it. I used it on my live stream yesterday. I apologized after. I still use that word. There are words that I grew up with that are inappropriate now. Times change. Things shift. It's not a fucking cultural victory that you can now say a word that you could always say. Joe Rogan is one of the stupidest propagandists. And that's the thing. Because he's so stupid, it works. Mom's YouTube. Oh, good to see Mom's YouTube on here. My son bought a home at 23 years old. His father passed away when he was 8. He's in the medical field and doing awesome. Stay strong, you'll win this race. See, Mom's YouTube. First of all, thank you for the comment. Thank you for sharing, because I understand that's a very tough thing. And that's amazing. And see, I love when people are like, let me share my story with you. And here's the other thing, Moms YouTube. Well, let me finish. Sorry, I've got a million thoughts coming to me at once. But yes, I love when people are willing to get open and vulnerable and share their story, because most people that pretend like they have your son's story or they have your story, they won't really open up about it. They won't go into details. I could tell, probably being honest, because of the little bit of details that you're sharing. But more importantly, anyone like Mom's YouTube, and I'm sure your son probably has a similar sentiment. You can tell he's got a good mom. Those people have compassion for these things. Like, I lost my father when I was young, and my brothers were even younger. My youngest brother has been homeless for over a decade now. But I have compassion for people who are in very vulnerable situations, and I would never, want to see them struggle. In fact, that's why I fight for universal health care. Housing is a human right. Fight against these corporations, fight against banks taking advantage of people. Like when I was living in my car, and if I got an overdraft fee, that would fuck me for weeks. The ramifications of getting a $35 overdraft fee. I remember I used to go into the bank and fight with the tellers to be like, or just go sit down with somebody and be like, please give me that money back, man. Like, you can't charge me $35 because I overdrafted too. Like, I'm broke. And a lot of these tellers were good people. They have compassion. But Mom's YouTube is the living voice. She is a true patriot. She's a true American. That's a true American. True Americans turn around and they go, I get the struggle, and I want to see you do well too, and I'll stand by your side. Because I'll tell you what, even when I was making six figures, when I was making over $100,000 a year in radio, and I saw my team struggling, and one guy got hired at a different time than another guy. I had 4, 5, 6 guys on my team that I would hire. And one guy got hired sooner, right? I took one guy who had been there working for a while. He was making $10 an hour. The other guy I hired, and the boss above me said, you can give him $11 an hour. And I would always encourage them to talk about their pay. I wouldn't tell people, but I would say, share with each other so you guys all know. And when the guy who'd been there longer found out that because he had been there longer and he wasn't hired when they were hiring at $11, was pissed, I said, you're not only right, but the company is wrong to do that to you. This is why, again, they didn't like me there. Because I said, the company's wrong. You should be at least making 11. If not, you've been here longer. You've proven that you're reliable. You should be here for more money. So I went to my big boss and I said, you just hired this dude at 11 and the guy who's been here for a while is making 10. I said, we need to change that. And he said, nope, can't do anything about it. And I said, you absolutely can. And he said, no, we don't have it in the budget, which is bullshit. Managers will always tell you they don't have it in the budget. They don't have the labor hours. But then go look up how much the CEO is making and say, why isn't it in the budget when we can pay this dude who I've never fucking met, never seen show up a day in his life, know all the bad decisions he keeps forcing on the people who are actually doing the job? Why is it in the budget to pay them that much? Why are there stock buybacks? Look up your company's stock buybacks. Why is that in the budget? Why can we keep paying out the dividends to the shareholders? Why can we inflate the stocks? Anyways. So I went to the boss and I said, that's no good to me. I said, this dude works hard. He shouldn't be paid less because of when he was hired. And the guy said no. And I said, Ron, take it out of my salary then. I said, take $1 off and fucking go talk to the accountant dude here and said, remove $1 out of his salary and give it to my guy. And he said, there's no way, we're not doing that. And I said, do that. And we had a battle, and I had to go back and tell him he won't not only give that to you, he won't let me take $1 out of my salary to make sure you understand how valued you are. So anybody who's lived through some kind of struggle or encountered this, I believe those people a lot of times, I'll say, more than not, because there are people like the Supreme Court judge, what's his name, Clarence Thomas, who will get up, succeed, and then turn around and kick the ladder out and go, I don't want anyone else having good shit. And those people are wretched. You don't want to live near them. You don't want to be near them. You don't want to be friends with them. Those people will, at every opportunity, take advantage and try to hurt you, because for them, it's either them or you, and that's not a survival situation. That's a selfishness situation. And I'm telling you that because I've lived in survival situations for a long time. And when it comes to survival, if you think, well, if I don't get the money, somebody else will, let me tell you something. If you're focused on the guy next to you and not the fucking people hoarding all the money, you're doing the math problem wrong. The math of money is, well, if you think there's only a certain amount and I got to get mine, well, guess what? There are people with $400 billion. There are people making millions upon millions. There are people making 200,000 times percentage more than you're making. Focus on them and focus on how hard they're working. You know, when Elon Musk says, I need a $56 billion a year salary. Who the fuck can work that hard? Especially not a guy who everything he touches turns to white supremacist shit. So my whole point in sharing this with you is because Mom's YouTube put on full display that people that usually suffer like that understand that struggle. And I encounter a lot of people like Joe Rogan who pretend like they know the struggle and say, well, no, like Joe has said, like, I was on food stamps. Like, well, if you really were, you would be vehemently against what they're trying to do right now to Meals on Wheels, food stamps, to the people who you claim to be somebody who came from that. That's why I love Tupac so much, because he came from it and he never lost it. In fact, that's all he did was highlight how shitty it is and how systemic racism affects everything, and how he talks about Donald Trump. You know, Tupac, go look it up. I think I shared the video on my community post, or maybe I will share it. But the advice isn't focus on other people, Rich Clark. If you heard what I was saying, I said, for the people, there are people who think immigrants are taking my jobs. Okay? And they don't realize that the only immigrant taking your job is the South African illegal immigrant named Elon Musk, who's firing thousands of people. There are people who think that if you get a raise, that means I don't get a raise. There are people, so Rich, I wasn't saying focus on other people. I was saying there are people who are focused on other people. They think, well, if he gets some more money, I don't get that money. And what I say is that's silly, because if you have that mindset that the immigrants are taking my jobs, but you're not going, well, the CEOs keep laying everyone off. I'm just trying to highlight their lack of common sense, their lack of critical thinking, Rich. That if you're one of the persons who says, well, if my neighbor has a better car, then that means I can't get a better car, so I have to have the better car. There are people who are like this out there. I hate to break it to you. I've lived in many places and I've lived a long time now. And I'm telling you, I've experienced these people. And the unfortunate thing is a lot of them are richer people. And what I'm saying is that if you're focused on, there's only a certain amount of money, so I got to make sure I get mine, and I don't want the guy down the street from me. Or if you're the people that say, well, if the government's going to wipe out their student debt, what about me? Because I paid mine. You're the same person who says, well, if Cuba has a cancer vaccine, what about all the people I know who died from cancer? It's a selfish fucking mindset, and it's no good. It's junk. So, Richard, what I was saying is, it is a rubbish mindset. So, if you're going to have that mindset, I'm trying to shift your paradigm and say, well, really, you should be thinking about the people who are hoarding the most money, the Elons, the Bezos, the CEOs. You should be thinking about the people who are hoarding the most money, because those are the people that are really affecting how much you make. And it's just the truth. You know, the sad truth is, as CEO pay has grown, but CEOs haven't gotten more efficient. Sorry. And again, sorry. Like, there's a glare that, hey, what's up, Curtis? That it's really hard for me to read some of these comments, so my apologies. Rich, why haven't those programs worked then? They exist to hold people in place, not are you talking about, shit, I can't go back that far. Rich, are you talking about like, you know, food stamps and stuff like that? Because they've structurally set up those programs to trap people. Again, Rich, this is critical thinking. I want to get you there. I really do, and I mean this. I'm very genuine. I want to get you there, because this is the lie that I've witnessed. When I worked at radio, the rich guy who lived with his parents in the same town all his life until he bought a house and has never moved, and would shit on people and say they're welfare queens and they love it. And I would say, no, if you've ever been on welfare or food stamps like I've been, you understand that if you make a certain amount, you get off of it. So it becomes more expensive to get off of it. It's trapped. And why do you think? Why do you think the system's set up like this? They want people to fucking be poor. They don't have, and there are other countries that do it in different ways. There are other ways to have a welfare state, like the Scandinavian countries, like the Nordic countries, like Denmark, Sweden, Norway. I encourage you guys to learn about them. Is there anybody from Sweden or Norway or Denmark that is in the chat? I know I have people from around the world, but I would love to have you on, because these are welfare states. Just so you know, Europe has welfare states. And these are countries that have figured out systems. Rich, again, pay attention to what I'm saying, because right now it feels like you just want to be right and you don't want to learn. So what I'm saying is they've developed systems like their prison system, which is a rehabilitation program to reintegrate people. So because in America, we like to think, well, if you do the time, you serve, or if you do the crime, you serve your time. But there's no reintegration. So you see a lot of people who come out of prison, like my friends, that ended up killing themselves because there was nothing for them in society and they were outcast, they were black booked. But instead, we shouldn't throw people away. If they've really served their time and they want to reintegrate, there should be a better system than sending you to prison to harden you as a criminal. So what I'm getting at, Rich, and again, I don't want to just continually, because I feel like you're a Donald guy, because Donald people and people who don't want to genuinely have a conversation, they just want to go, well, what about this? 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 They're the Ben Shapiro's of debate. Ben Shapiro, whenever he's fucking caught, he goes, well, let's say, and they don't acknowledge what I'm saying. Let's say you acknowledge what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is there are systems in place that don't trap people onto food stamps or welfare. There are systems, there are better ways to do this. And our government, Democrats and Republicans, don't want that. Look at what's happening today. Donald and all his Republicans overturned Joe Biden's limit on bank fees. So overdraft fees, they were going to limit, Biden was going to limit to $5. That was the cap. Banks, you still get to make billions of dollars, just not tens of billions of dollars on poor people. And Donald and all his Republicans said, no, we're overturning that. Banks, you do what you want. Free market. They call it free. Everything that is good is free market for them. But it's sad because, you know, there are these speaking points where they go, well, people just want to stay on welfare. They do, you know, you never see them get out of it. It's like, that's not true. And I say this as someone who was on welfare, who was on food stamps. And let me tell you, it's not living the high life. Like the Republicans will say, it's a welfare queen. Okay. They're not the welfare queens like Elon Musk is, where he gets billions of dollars in subsidies. He gets to fuck around and lose it all and nobody holds him accountable. You know, it's not like that. He doesn't even have to take drug tests. It's so funny to me. You know, people want, I think, was it Florida? There was somewhere where they want to implement laws to take drug tests to get your food stamps. And it's like, well, Elon Musk should be taking drug tests to take his fucking government money. Sorry. Again, I'm sorry. Wherever I'm positioned, all of my comments are in this. The glare is so fucking bad. Maybe it's it's my white shirt. Sorry. Okay. I can't read these. It's so, I'm gonna have to go somewhere. Thank you. I'm out going back to work. Mom's YouTube, thank you for sharing. Listen, if you could hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'm in a bad spot. The glare is really so bad. I'll try to go live later. But listen, Donald is trying to or is taking bank fee. Hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'll be back. I just can't believe people that are Joe Rogan fans, like, wake up. He's celebrating he said it's a cultural victory to use the R word. It's like, bro, you could always do it. This is the stupidest celebration, especially, like, people just need to read the room. Read the room. Texas Speaks. You should read a book too. There's a great one called The Shock Doctrine by Naomi Klein. And she talks about all this stuff. How the free market capitalism usually lends itself to authoritative fascists and you know, really, for anyone defending capitalism and these government crooks right now, I I just want to say, we've been doing this for a long time. Reagan started deregulation. Deregulation is at an all-time high right now, and unionization is at an all-time low. And why do you think Elon wants to? Why do you think? Go look up who the first people that Elon fired were. It was all the people looking into his companies, all the people like that were making our roads safer. You know, because these Teslas are notoriously put together with a slap hack job, with slapping tape on stuff. So guys, you know, if you want to defend this system, which is funny because most of the Donald people are like, the government's lying to us. And now they're like, thank God we got a government. But the reason Elon and Donald, they're all grifters that are eroding away the services that our taxes pay for, is because they want their corporate buddies to rule. And listen, if that's the world that you want, if that is the world that you want, if you just want, you know, your state, whatever state you live in, Texas, to be brought to you by Exxon Oil and Exxon to write the laws, like there are towns that Google's trying to buy towns, Elon Musk's trying to buy towns where you work and live and they can monitor everything. Why do you think he wants to put chips on you? You know, if you're there are people that are celebrating this. They can't wait for a chip in their brain. I say go get it and go live in an Elon Musk town, because you're going to be praying that people were smart enough to not fall for his bullshit, that they can help you escape. Okay? And if you celebrate it, just say that. Just say, I want Target and Walmart and Amazon and Jeff Bezos to rule the world. I want them to make the laws. I want them to be in charge. I want the CEO of Trump Steaks and the Trump Taj Mahal, the casino that doesn't exist and the food that doesn't exist anymore. I want that CEO to run my life and tell me what to do. Just say that. That's all you got to do. Rich, I encourage you. I have a Discord link down below, and there's a huge list of books that I've put in there. There really is. And you know, again, I don't know who's defending capitalism right now, but just so you know, what you're defending is the reason we're where we are. Government regulation didn't get us where we are, but corrupt politicians, people who pump and dump, people who inside trade. And it's interesting that insider trading, the limit, statute of limitations is 5 years. So it's after 2028. Because again, if you weren't paying attention last summer, the Supreme Court said the president is above the law, can't be accused or convicted of any crimes. So we have a king again. You know, that whole thing. Remember when we fought against the Stamp Tax Act back in the 1700s? We were so mad that they taxed our tea. And now people are like, give us a tariff. Like, we literally started this country. Fighting a war on a tariff. We literally fought against a tax on our tea. And now people are like, tax everything, man. Tax everything that comes from other countries. JB, what is that ideology? It's so funny to me that the people who are hailing, it's like they need to do anything. And that's what I was getting at. Just say, I do whatever Donald tells me. Just say that. That's what the hat should say. Donald controls this mind. Because you can't be proud of this country and how we started and then be like, I know we fought a war against terrorists, but you know what? Now we love our tariffs. Now the tariffs are the best. Sean from New Bedford. What's up, New Bedford? No, that what liberals do, bud. Oh, Jesus. Are you a Donald guy? Because the hypocrisy is hilarious if you think liberals do that. But again, all the Donald people, you guys are celebrating tariffs when people, maybe they're not teaching this at school anymore, but we fought a war against a foreign tax. That's how the country was made. But now tariffs are good because the Donald said so. Donald. You celebrate a guy named Donald. That's fucking hilarious. He's such a herb. Donald. My Christ. And then there's people like me. I'm not a liberal, but I'm not a Democrat or a Republican, but I want our taxes to pay for our health care. I want you to have guaranteed paid time off, guaranteed sick leave. I want you to have a guaranteed vacation. Um, Magnus, you know what a trade deficit is, right? Tell me what a trade deficit is without looking it up, and then I'll tell you. Terrorists caused the Great Depression. Yes, they did. How are we supposed to have a Scandinavian system without strong national pride? Rich, you don't think Americans have a strong national pride? You're kidding, right? Like that's a joke, right? You don't think people who decorate themselves in American flags against the flag code, who make American flags into bathing suits and capes, you don't think we have a strong national pride? Magnus, again, I don't think you understand that a trade deficit doesn't mean we're losing money. It's that we buy more stuff than we export. And once you understand that, you'll go, oh yeah, we're not an industry nation anymore. We don't produce shit here because corporations said it's cheaper to produce in China. We can pay Chinese people less. We're not going to pay American workers more. So again, it all goes back to what I'm talking about. Corporations want to hoard the money, but you probably didn't know that, so it's okay. It's okay. Rich, again, it's just so funny to me that you're saying we don't have a strong national pride. The thing is, and yes, greed, Ezekiel, but the thing is, guys, you got to understand this. We have a strong national pride. The thing is most people, it's a white one. They believe there's this whiteness to America, and that's what it is. There's a strong national pride. Just look at them getting rid of DEI or calling Bill Burr's wife a DEI wife. They're just saying the N-word without saying it, guys. Okay, let's be very clear. It's just they don't want anyone different than them, and that's the divide. That's why people say Trump's racist. Okay? If you didn't understand it, or hopefully that's very clear. Because when you're pointing out how do we do that without a strong national pride, we do. It's just Steve Bannon and Elon Musk who's sig-heiling. They hate other colored people. Elon Musk, his whole family came from apartheid South Africa. They made their money. His grandfather was so racist, he left Canada. He was a pro-Nazi in Canada who had been locked up and on watch lists and went to South Africa because he was pro-apartheid. Not many people do that, but Elon Musk's family did. So that's what it is. It's the hate divide. That's why, acknowledging that for the people who support him is very good, because you need to get over that hate hump. And that's why you hear them use immigrants as a target. Because if you really think immigrants are taking your job or laying you off, you're fucking crazy. CEOs are hoarding the greed. They don't want to pay you. They'll pay other foreign countries, and then they'll import that stuff because it costs them less. That's why it's so hilarious that Donald Trump says we're going to bring factories back. He's talking about 60,000 factories, 90,000 factories. Unbelievable. I'm like, you guys closed those factories down. You didn't want to pay American workers. Donald, you don't make your shirts and hats in America. If you wanted to bring factories back here, you would be saying, since 2015, I've been making my clothes in America. The Dropkick Murphys proudly make their stuff union made in America. You could do that, but they're greedy. Whoever said that, Ezekiel. They're greedy. They're greedy. It's greed and the propaganda they use to divide you. And Joe Rogan's a great disseminator of propaganda. He disseminates all over the place. And these middle-aged white guys love it. They think he's a genius, but he's not. He's a fucking moron. Joe Rogan, who's celebrating the use of the R word, folks. I want you to think about that. You could always use it, but I guess Trump or Elon told them that they could now, and now they're celebrating. I hope that makes your egg prices go down, folks. I hope you use that at the checkout for a discount. That would be clever. If he wanted to be clever, if he was a good comic, he'd say code word R word. If you want a discount on his mushroom brain meds, Joe Rogan would make you use the R word for his code word. I mean, that'd be funny. But no, Rich, people do think Joe Rogan is very smart. They think he's just asking questions and he really uncovers stuff. Rich, I'm telling you because I've met these people. I'm telling you, it's just like I've met people who are like, Jordan Peterson is really smart. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. But they're like, it's almost like a pheromone that Joe and Jordan put off, that they get guys to believe that they're tough intellectuals. They're strong men, masculine intellectuals. And it's, like you said, a straw man. All right. Well, Rich, what's up, Ample? Rich, I appreciate you rapping with me. Exactly, Ample. People think Elon invented the Tesla. And there are people that I've met that I respect that they were like, oh, well, he invented Tesla. And it's like, people don't have time. When you're stressed about rent, your retirement, egg price, the price of egg, how much could it cost, Michael? $30? When you're stressed about that, you don't have time to look into all this, and I don't blame people, but that's what I'm here to do. I'm doing news commentary, newsmentary every weekday to share this information. And hopefully I planted a little seed and you go, let me see if that was true. Let me hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and look that up. And then I'll go back and tell them if it wasn't true. And if it wasn't, come back and tell me. What's up, Gma? I don't want to hear falling birth rates or none of that bullshit. If you, and here's the reason. Elon Musk always talks about falling birth rates. And not only is that like his white supremacist dog whistle, but if you gave a shit about falling birth rates, you would just open your eyes and go, oh, people can't afford to live. The average home buyer went from 26 years old to 40 years old. And if you can't buy a house and buy egg, guess what? You most likely don't want to have kids. That's a scary, very expensive thing, especially here in America where there's no paid parental leave, no free college or college paid for by our taxes. There's no guaranteed health care. I mean, if you want to talk birth rates, I don't want to hear anything else than I want paid parental leave, a year like the Scandinavian countries do, 16, 18 months off when you have a baby. I want to hear better paying jobs, union better paid jobs. I want to hear, something about how homes and guaranteed health care. I want to hear about, food price. Again, this is critical thinking and common sense, folks. If anybody talks about birth rates and they're not saying, well, we need to be, making sure people are paid more. We need to make sure that healthcare is a universal basic right. We need to make sure that when they have a baby, they have time off, that most crucial time off to spend with their child. If you say birth rates and don't mention any of that, you're full of shit. And that's just, common sense, because it doesn't take a genius to understand that if you don't have those safety things in place, people don't want to have kids in a crazy fucking world where they're like, well, I can hardly afford to feed myself. How am I going to feed a kid? But again, Elon Musk hoarding all the money. His mother, May Musk, who married and was from a racist family and had emerald mines in an apartheid state, tell you, well, you just don't go to the movies and then you have a kid. It's like, we maybe go to the movies once a fucking year. What are you talking about? I don't go that once a year and then I can afford it? Get out of here. These people aren't serious people. All right, guys, I gotta go. But hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and hopefully I planted some seeds. That's all I'm doing, planting little seeds. Joe Rogan celebrating the R word, even though you could always say it. Joe Rogan's such a moron. I hope he hears himself out. I hope he listens back to his podcast and he goes, wow, I actually said it was a cultural victory to say the R word, even though you could always say it. You could always say it, Joe. You could always say it. Always, Joe. Like, you could always. It's crazy to me because people say much more racist stuff, and I don't know. Is he going to celebrate that next? Thank you, Randy. Make sure you come back. Hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. Much love to you. Randy, I hope you have paid time off and guaranteed health care and your house rates go up. And you can tell me I suck all you want, but the truth is I'm fighting for everyone, man. Everyone. You can hate me all you want, but I'm still going to try to get you better paid and for our taxes to pay for our health care, to get those insurance companies out of the way, them stop being gatekeepers. So hate me all you want, Randy, but my job doesn't stop with you saying you sucks. You sucks. Hit subscribe. Have you done any research? No, I just guessed at it all, Venmo. I'm like Joe Rogan. You know, people keep talking about we need a Joe Rogan of the left. You just need an anti-Joe Rogan, somebody who looks shit up. And Venmo, you want to make fun of yellow teeth and addictions? Listen, Venmo, that's the issue, man. It's really hard to go see a dentist because those are luxury bones. But you're showing your character, and that's enough for me. You know, I don't. I don't think. I don't think that matters, but I don't give a fuck. If you're gonna troll me, you better know me. Venmo at need a beer. And that's your name. You definitely need a beer, Randy. And you believe in woke. Here comes. Okay, before I go, everybody attack. You believe in woke. I didn't think the Biden administration was the answer. Thank you for not paying attention. You get an F in paying attention today. But yeah, and this is what happens. You know, I say that. Yeah, Logan. Oh, Logan's young, so you don't understand. Seeing a dentist is a luxury. It's not included in your health insurance. It's actually a separate plan. And this is a good learning moment. Logan, you're young, so you don't understand this. But once you're over 26 and off your parents' health insurance, you'll understand that seeing a dentist is a separate insurance plan that you have to get. And usually it's very, very expensive if you need anything done. You get maybe a cleaning a year, but anything outside of that is extremely expensive. But it's good to teach you this, Logan, because, you know, being ignorant and not having to deal with this, it's like Tommy Loren. She was on there, saying all this shit about healthcare, and then people found out she's still in her parents' healthcare. She doesn't have to pay for it, doesn't have to worry about it. And that's what you get. You get a lot of people that have never experienced things in life having these fully formed thoughts that think they're correct. And the truth is that, yeah, teeth in America are luxury bones. That means they're not included with your health insurance. You don't have to get a plan, but if you do, it's extra, and anything is out of pocket. And now they even have this fantastic thing where at the dentist you can get a credit card to pay for that stuff. So it's so funny though, you know, the people that want to shit on you, or I don't know, the people that want to attack these things, but they don't want to hear what I'm saying, that we need to tax the wealthiest people in our society. They're hoarding all the money. We need to tax wealth, not tax workers. That our taxes that everyone pays into, not just the working people, should be providing universal health care like most other first world nations have. But it's just hatred. You know, that's what I see in the comments. That like Magnus and JB and Venmo, all these people, they just want to attack. And they're not providing any insights. That's the funniest part about the Donald supporters. Like I said, Donald just overturned the Joe Biden rule that banks couldn't charge you more than $5 on overdraft fees. None of them has said anything about that. They're not like, fuck Trump for doing that. Why is he siding with banks? You're not allowed to speak against Trump once he's your daddy, like Venmo said. The Donald Trump's your daddy. And you're not allowed to talk back, and you have to praise everything he done. But this is clearly, like Donald Trump today clearly is siding with the banks, big banks, over you, and letting them overcharge whatever fees they want. And the saddest thing to me is these people will do this. They'll go, well, then do you believe in open borders? And it's like, just answer what the fuck I said. You can't. You can't have a real conversation. That's why I say you're not very serious people. And that's why when you try to attack me, I go, well, why do I give a shit if a not serious person wants to talk about open borders now? It's like, I don't fucking care. Just address what I said, you know? Donald Trump and his Republicans, the people you worship that are your daddy, they all sided with big banks today and said, we're going to let the banks put whatever fees they want on you. And nothing. It's fucking quiet. It's quiet. Somebody brought up borders. That's what I mean. You guys are very unserious people. But hit subscribe and the notification bell. And thank you guys for proving my point. I really appreciate that. You are funny people. Magnus, I know you've been here for a little while, so I've clearly said both parties do. That's why I speak against it. That's what I'm doing here. I'm against the Democrats and the Republicans. I'm for the people. But you're just catching on. We're only an hour in, so awesome. I'm raising your paying attention from an F to a F plus. Good job. And I do swear a lot. I'm from Massachusetts, and it's a bad thing, and I'm trying to work on it. Thank you, Evan. And that's my crutch. I say swears instead of real things. All right, guys. I hope you. Oh, what's up, New Hampshire? Good to see you, New Hampshire. Land, live free or die. That's the one thing that bugged me about New Hampshire. They say live free or die. But if I brought a couple pounds of cannabis into New Hampshire, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be living free. F that. That ain't true. And especially when New Hampshire, I wrote an open letter to the governor because he was just an old white guy who was fighting against it. I said, New Hampshire, everybody on your borders, including Canada, has cannabis as a legal thing you can buy in their state. Vermont, Maine, Massachusetts, Canada, it's all legal. If we cross your border and have to see that sign that says live free or die, it's almost satirical at this point. It's hilarious because it's not a live free or die state. So hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. Peace.